losing my mom to cancer, understanding life is so fragile and every single day is a gift. It's a powerful place and it's a great place to operate from. And I wish and hope more people would operate from that place.
Hi, and thanks for joining Chasing Energy. I am your host, Daniel Lucas. I was an endurance athlete for the better part of a decade. And now my focus is this podcast where I share tips on mindset, nutrition, and training with the masses. And I generally tend to target people who are a little later in life, have had kids, and are trying to stay on top of their fitness regimen. In that spirit, today's guest is Jeff Wickersham. And if you look up his Instagram, which is, you can just type in Jeff Wickersham in there, but he has a website called themorningfire.com. Jeff is a success coach. He had some major setbacks. We'll cover some of those in this podcast. And now he helps inspire others with his daily post. During this podcast, he talks about his long run of meditation. He has a book called Rise, Fight, Love, Repeat. You can find that on Amazon. It talks about Jeff's mission. And so in this podcast, we're going to talk a lot about accountability, consistency, and energy. There are some good snippets that I plan to share for social media here. Do me a favor. I haven't had a single review in 4 months, and it's because you, yes, you listening, won't take the time to spend 30 seconds to say this podcast is great, it needs work, whatever. Just write something. I'll read it on the air. Thanks for all you do to help me continue this passion project of mine. And I've got some more interviews that I'm very excited to share with you. Enjoy. Jeff Wickersham, good morning to you, Morning Fire. Talk to me about what it is you're doing and the message that you're sharing with
Daniel,
people
thank
these
you
days.
so much for having me. Pleasure to be here. Grateful and honored. My message, my mission is to help people intentionally step into the best version of themselves personally and professionally. And I feel like that intentionality is so missed in life, and life and our minds are wired to automate, make things easy. And that's how a day becomes a week becomes a month becomes a year becomes 10 years, and we're still in the same spot. So bringing that intentionality into people's lives every single day is a key component of what I do. And also living in a state of gratitude that every single day is a gift. Today is a gift you and I will never get again. How can we use that gift to the fullest potential that it provides us?
So many things for me to unbox in that opening statement, Jeff, and all good ones. Number one is you talk about people stepping in the best version of themselves, right? Which is, it alludes to the fact that we're never at the top of Maslow's hierarchy in terms of self-efficacy. We are constantly in a state of evolving and getting better. I read a great book recently called Strength to Strength, and he liked to say the Rolling Stones almost had it right. I can't get no satisfaction was the song, but he says you can't keep no satisfaction. Satisfaction is something that is, as soon as you attain it, it moves, right? Why not use that desire for the constantly hedonic treadmill, if you will, to work on ourselves and help give those around us a better version of ourselves? And that's what I think you're alluding to in terms of, 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, and you're still, for example, you start noticing I am having the same problems. I'm getting in the same vicious cycles. Why is it that I allow this to happen? And I think you'll agree. The first thing is you have to do the deep work. It's never as simple as flipping a switch, right? So let's talk a little bit about some of your approaches here. I could talk on just your opening statement this entire podcast, but let's talk a little bit about, number one, your morning mantra, which is rise, fight, love, repeat, right? Tell us a little bit about what that means to you when you say that to yourself.
It is a grounding mechanism. It's an anchor to be able to start each day. And I love to, as I go through it and explain it, rise is, hey, every single day you're a phoenix rising from the ashes. You're reborn, new possibilities, new opportunities, a fresh start, a blank canvas to paint upon, right? And you're rising up as you wake up. Fight bringing that fight mentality, that dog mentality to your physical fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness, your personal life, your professional life. And so many times we're not even getting in the arena to battle for what we truly want. And if you took an honest look at yourself and said, hey, did I truly fight for what I wanted today? I would say 95% of people, the answer would be no. So that's the fight portion. The love portion, so vitally important. Love yourself first. And I think this is so counterintuitive. So many people feel like, I need to serve others. Well, you've got to show up as your best version first. Take care of yourself first before you can help others. And that's the greatest give you can not only give yourself, but all your loved ones around you. We were just talking about family before we jumped on. I mean, imagine being physically, mentally, spiritually in shape, ready to go, and then you can give that to your family. So incredibly powerful. And then that secret sauce, the repetition, repeat, doing it every day, over and over again, and getting into this mindset of falling in love with the process, not the results. Right. And I was in the garage. I've got a garage gym, and I was working out with my wife a couple weeks ago, and I was kind of shaking my head after a workout, sweat dripping down, right? I've just spent all my energy. And she says, why are you shaking your head? And I said, because I've got to do this again tomorrow. So, it's that mentality. I love the Navy SEALs, right? They've got that membership card, and on the back it says, earn your trident every day. Right. And that's the mentality.
You got to change that to you get to do this tomorrow. You get to do this.
Right.
Not
Very
got
true.
to.
Very true. Get to. Those simple little words and letters you can put into your language is incredibly, incredibly powerful.
It's something that I make a very big, like even with my son who's 13, I'll ask him questions on wording. And in fact, if you haven't read it, Brene Brown's latest book, something like Echoes of the Heart or Words of the Heart. The entire book, Jeff, and by the way, it's very good, is on differentiating words and what they mean. The difference between, for example, say, like love and this and that, and basically adding more clarity to your thoughts by using words in the right context. And then she spends time talking about what this word should mean to you. And I just find that when it comes to, even within our self-talk, we are always programming ourselves. So when I talk to my son, I'm always clarifying, like, you use the word can't a lot, son. Like, he'll say, I can't do that, Dad. I was like, well, going back, I wrote some notes here. When you talk about fight, did you fight for it? Well, I suffer with that one because I was raised as a peacekeeper, and whenever there's a way to make others happy, I generally pursue that first and foremost, whether or not it's to my own detriment. I go, well, I found the peaceful solution here. And it's really, in my case, what I'm doing is surrendering and not fighting. I'm going, I found something, it didn't cause conflict. Everybody else was happy, so I guess that's good. And going back to what we talked earlier, you find yourself in those loops where you go, how does this happen? Oh yeah, I tried to be amiable to everybody versus fighting for what I believe in. And then lastly, when we talk about words with clarity, my son, I'll say something like, what's the difference between being rich and wealthy? And he'll go, all right, they're the same thing, Dad. And that's an example where I go, if you put these words in your head that it's all the same thing, it's harder for you to focus and achieve something. Jeff, if you and I were running, actually swimming is a better example.
I do
swim?
not.
Okay. If you ever done like long distance swimming, it's all about learning how to sight something on the shore to keep you from doing zigzags out there all day. And it's actually, and if you don't focus in on a target, and you have to look up at that target every 15, 20 seconds, because it's actually a lot of energy to lift your head up out of the water and look when you're in a stroke, you waste time. You zigzag. And that's what I mean by having clarity about what we want to accomplish. So rise, fight, love, repeat, morning mantra. And I love how you say that anchors you. Anchoring bias, I don't know if you know what that means. It's where you throw something out. For example, if you go to a restaurant, they sometimes they're smart enough to put anchors on the menus to drive you to what they really want you to buy. They'll make something exorbitantly expensive. It's something super cheap, so you land in the middle. It's anchoring what, oh, well, this is $50. Oh, this one's 30. I'm going to land around 40, for example. Wonderful, wonderful clarity. I talk too much on this one, buddy, because you've got me riled up. So many things to ask you here. Let's go through accountability, consistency, and energy. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I love how you're bringing up language with your son. I mean, I do it with I've got a 13, soon to be 14 and 12-year-old, and they're hitting the gym, and I'll ask them how many reps they're going to get. And I'll say, I'm going to try and get 4. And I look at them and they say,
try.
I am going to get 4. And I said, do you feel the power change? And all of a sudden they got 4 reps. So I love that. What a gift you're giving your son. So amazing stuff.
I'll add to that and say, I use when I was an ultra runner, I would say, I'm either going to get this or they have to pick me up. I mean, so for example, I am going to get 4 reps, or you have to get the bar off my chest. It's one of the two.
Love it. Love it. So yes, accountability. Let's start there. Right. And great that we're talking about our sons, because
yes,
when we grow up, we have accountability. We have parents, right? We have dads we're just talking about that hold us accountable to do the right things. We both played sports. We have sports teams where we have coaches that hold us accountable. We have teammates that hold us accountable. And then all of a sudden you get to adulthood and you have 0 accountability, or you might have a little accountability at your job, maybe a little bit with your spouse or whoever it might be. But all of a sudden it goes away and there's no roadmap and we don't have anybody to hold us accountable. And we haven't developed the muscle, and I would say the mindset muscle, to hold ourselves accountable because we've always had somebody else do it.
And we don't see the value in it. That's why, and I say we, I'm just as guilty. You get in a situation, and I'm generalizing when I say you, 80%, we'll use an 80-20 principle. You nailed it, Jeff. You're accountable to so many, you have to follow the rules. And then all of a sudden you're 19, 21 years old and you don't have to follow the rules anymore. You have your own place, or, the difference between when you went to high school, the teachers would say, hey, Daniel, you really got to step up here. When you go to college, you're like, I don't care if you show up to class or not. It's your call. The accountability is you get an F and I'm not here to hold your hand. But the gap, I think, Jeff, in that, and I'm generalizing here, usually between 20 and 30 or 20 and 25, is we think that now that we don't have someone telling us what to do, we'll be fulfilled and happy. And I think we pursue happiness, but we can't get fulfillment, right? Because fulfillment is helping other people and being accountable to other people. And only when we get older, we see the beauty of being accountable to others is how we get the best version of ourselves, right?
So true. And that would lead into next one, energy, right? And the power of proximity, being around positive energy people and bringing...
I feel energy right now off you, Jeff.
Well, that's good, because then it's coming through the right way. And that's one of the things I bring to every client engagement, right? Is energy. You have somebody in your corner to guide you, but give you positive energy, cheerlead you, encourage you, right? Bring the best out of you. And energy is just such a lost art. And it's something that people don't value enough. And if you brought more energy just today after listening to this podcast to every meeting, to every engagement, to every conversation, it would profoundly change your life, because people would say, what the heck is Daniel? What the heck is Jeff on? I felt it. I'm inspired. And then you start having that ripple effect and make a dent in the universe. So
we are attracted to energy, man. When someone comes in, you tell me how hard it is to be charismatic without energy.
You can't do it. I mean, you just can't do it.
To get someone emotionally enrolled is a very difficult thing to do without you using tonation in your voice. And, I'm not going to say it can't be done. There's a lot of CEOs out there who are very methodical and use powerful words. But when it comes to energy, it's especially when you're asking people to ask more of themselves. There's something in our nature that says, please speak to me on an emotional, primitive level that's beyond the words themselves, right? And I think that's what energy does. It says, I'm going to appeal to a part of your soul and bypass the mind. The mind will hear the words, but the heart and the soul will see my energy.
So true. And we don't think about that on the positive side, and then we don't guard our mind from the negative side. And that's a very powerful practice to get into, right? Is waking up, you're not checking your phone, you're not seeing news, you're not seeing text message, you're not seeing email. You're putting up almost this force field like buffer between your positivity and then the negativity that's out there, because that's going to allow you to cultivate your energy, be more positive, be more inspired, and not let that negative information be visible and impact your mood and your happiness and then your results in the long run.
And that's something that's actually, as an adult, it's very easy to rationalize that I am checking this phone first thing in this morning for my family because I want to stay on top of things, which is, how it starts, right? You may check email for a second, but then it's only a millisecond before you're back into something that's clearly not serving you in the long term. The phone thing, I heard some of your podcasts about how you went to Eagles training camp and they said, put away the phones and it forces you to be present. I've sort of declared war on my phone here lately of if I used to walk, I would walk in the morning and some mornings I would do a podcast or an audiobook when I walk. And I've started getting in the habit of saying, let's go without anything. Don't take the phone with you. Don't take anything. Just walk. And you have to be alone with your thoughts and see what's there. And then the other thing is, even when I'm in my regular day and there's nothing, you have that pause, right, Jeff, where let's say you're at a restaurant with your wife and she goes to the bathroom. What's the first thing we do?
We check our phone.
Pull it out. Pull it out. As soon as that door shuts, you go, okay, let me see what's going on here. I got 2 minutes to kill. I'm trying to insert 5 to 10 deep breaths to just check in with myself before I'm allowed to do that. I'm not saying I'm successful with it. But when we talk about being the best version of ourselves, this is where I am looking at things going, it's not serving me. I know it's not serving me. I've been an IT guy for 20 years. I know the technology inside and out of being constantly plugged in.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily make you a better person. I want to talk to you about, you did a podcast recently on the importance of sleep and how you changed your sleep habits recently. First of all, I was shocked when you said you were getting by fine on 6 hours of sleep up until 7 months ago. Tell us a little bit about what it was like, what caused you to change and what your life has been like or what you've noticed since the change.
Diving into the science more, right? And my mom passed away from breast cancer 7.5 years. I watched her take her last breath. I know that 7 hours, that buffer, if you get less, I mean, your odds of getting cancer are like double, right? And so that
but especially the brain diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's,
right,
where the plaque isn't being cleared out correctly.
Correct. So as somebody who has a target of living to be 100 years old, I said, hold on a second, I need to change. And it hasn't been easy, because once you get into those habits of 6.5, you almost have to hit the sleep gym, right? Of, okay, it's not time for me to wake up. I'm going to go back, do some deep breathing in bed, fall asleep again. But it's definitely been, I feel, much more focused, fresh, and it's a practice just like everything in life. Like you just alluded to, when your wife goes to the bathroom, you don't check your phone, you're going to breathe. Hey, these are all modalities, all things that we can put into practice to be the best version of ourselves. And it needs to be all encompassing. And once you start down that road of, hey, how do I find these little hidden edges, these little strategies that I can implement? When they compound over time, when you're consistent, then all of a sudden your life starts changing and you feel better, you act better, you're more present, all those pieces to the puzzle.
Compounding is a key word there, because when we think about what is keeping us from our goals, right? It's rarely so simple as just one little knob that we tweak, right? So for example, let's talk about, I feel tired during the day, okay? And you might say, well, you just get more sleep at night. Well, there's going to be a lot of knobs that have to take place in order for you to rest better. So for example, if I could click a switch and automatically go to sleep for 8 hours, I would gladly do it with the understanding that I'm going to be completely unavailable for 8 hours. Unfortunately, my mind doesn't work that way anymore. It actually has to unwind and let go of things. And going back to the second side of the phone, it sounds like, by the way, the science is this Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. It sounded like
there's been a couple of things I've been checking out.
Yeah. Yep. I've been obsessed with sleep for the last year. So this is definitely a hot topic for me. And I became aware that my children notice when I've had 2 nights of bad rest. Like, they notice I'm a little shorter. I'm not as patient. And I also noticed it's almost, unless you're taking one for the team and you're sacrificing your sleep for a higher purpose, it's almost impossible, Jeff, to have an inner sense of joy when you are truly sleep deprived. Because there's all you can think about is, I just need rest. I need my mind to click off. And it's hard to experience joy, with very few exceptions, when you're in a state. So going back to taking care of yourself so you be the better person for everyone else, that's a great example with the rest. So when you talk about being a world-class athlete and coach, being authentic and consistent, talk to me a little bit about. And by the way, I loved on one of the videos you were doing your shrugs. You had it was the old school Metallica playing. I had some flashbacks from whatever gets your blood pumping. Man.
That's it.
So going back to consistency and training, regardless of feel, and being well rested, tell us a little bit about how you practice that on a day-to-day basis.
And I love to think of consistency as the ultimate force multiplier, right? If we've got this equation where we've got effort, time, focus, underneath the parentheses, consistency is that C up in the top right, and that's the ultimate force multiplier. One, you need to track what you're doing to be consistent, and track it, make it visible, because what happens is you start to see progress, and it's how I got to I think today was 1,693 straight days of meditation. The only way I've gotten there is I see it every time I do it, and I want to continue that streak. I want to continue to get better. So tracking it is so vital. And then once you start tracking it, it becomes a standard, right? And you mentioned, hey, I'm either going to get 4 reps or you're going to take the bar off my chest, right? Like, that's my standard is every single day. I drink water, I exercise, and I meditate. I don't care if I'm on a deserted island. I told my wife, if I'm in the hospital, you better throw the earbuds on and let me meditate for 10 minutes, right? So you have that standard, and that allows consistency. And then being around other people that are on that chase. This goes back to the accountability and energy piece. It's a lot easier to be consistent when you have other people that are on that chase to be the best version of themselves as well. So, take a look at, hey, who do I want to be around? Because I know they're chasing being the best version of themselves, and that's going to help you be consistent. So those are a couple factors.
Yeah, I when you talk about that, there's someone I like to cite. I read her book several years ago called The 4 Tendencies, and it's by Gretchen Rubin. I don't know if you've read that book. Essentially, there's a quiz online, but it comes back and it tells you are one of 4 type of tendencies. And I'm trying to take the quiz here, but it's like obliger, questioner, but the point there is, are you the type of, and a rebel is one, are you the type of person, what is it that inspires you to get to the next level? And with what you were talking about, when you surround yourself with energy in those people, to me, that's accountability. That's like one of my favorite examples in the book is, if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to disappoint others, then you tell them, I will meet you at the gym at this time. If you want to take things to the next level, for example, Jeff, you're training for a marathon, your buddy's training for a marathon, and you don't want to give each other an out. What you do is you swap each other's running shoes when you leave, so that when you show back up the next day, if you don't show up, those shoes do not show up, and that other person doesn't run. But these are examples of where you can leverage what we have inside of our personality. Someone who's a little bit more rebellious might say, I have to take on a goal that's a little bit audacious or just doesn't speak to me. I'm not one of those people. I'm not. Those are the people I think who generally get on the ups and downs and have to sort of figure out the value of having consistency in their life, right? Consistency. I love your words, the force multiplier, because in math, you have that to the seventh power. That is consistency over time. And consistency is as much of a enemy as it is a friend, because if you're doing the wrong things consistently, the force multiplier is still there. It just has a negative number in front of it, right?
Yeah. So in that regard, you still always need to reflect and adjust. Yeah. And I feel like that's a lost art in the world today as well, because we're going, we're doing. And how often do we actually, on a Friday or on a Sunday, reflect back to the week that was, or even at night, and say, okay, what worked, what didn't, what do I need to adjust? Yeah. Where do I need to pivot? Yeah. Because it takes effort to do that. And we're wired to do the quick and easy. We're also fed that from a social media perspective.
I think it takes more than effort, Jeff. I think it takes humility, because you said at the beginning of this interview, did you fight? Right. And a lot of times we want to tell ourselves, well, I tried, it just didn't go my way. But if we're being really, really honest, we go, did I really fight for this? And when you talk about reflecting and adjusting at the end of the day, the first thing I think of is being honest with yourself and going through your list and going, okay, here was my checklist. Here's what did or didn't get done. Was I wise with my time? What did I learn from this? What do I need to tweak for tomorrow? And it's a humbling thing, because the easiest thing to do at the end of the day is go, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I don't want to reflect. Right now I'm trying to just not remember, not hold on to anything of the day, which is how we get in these cycles. It's almost like some type of captain who's like, I don't want to talk about the fact we've been going in circles. Tomorrow we're going to get this thing straight, right?
Yeah, so true. If you don't take that time, humility, reflect, adjust, you're going to be headed in that same path. And then to your point, that compounding effect is going to go on the negative side, and you'll be so much farther off than where you would have been if you could just sight adjust early on in the process and make sure you're staying on course.
Well, that's part of tracking, right? Tracking your progress, you said. You look at your meditation app. You've got that many days in a row. I actually have my whiteboard that I keep next to me. And I'll tell you, man, I've gotten humbled in the last 2 months. I have started getting back to simple, you have to see it on a piece of paper or on the wall. And it's so different from, I know how to use Google Drive pretty darn good. I can make a checklist in Excel without a problem. Unfortunately for me, there's something that changes in my brain when it's on a piece of paper or on the wall that I go, well, I wrote it on, now I have to do it. Or it's looming in my head as an undone thing. Versus a digital relationship, it's much easier to just sort of bypass that and go, it's not real.
It is. And there's a Virginia Tech professor did a study on it and said you're 9 times more likely to achieve your goal, target, mission if you write it down. 9 times more likely. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy when you think about that.
And write it down
every day.
I mean, yeah. Jeff, talk to me a little bit about how you incorporate all these principles into your family life.
I think that is such a missing piece of the equation. And I used to be a gym owner, personal trainer, nutritional coach. And I would see it in the gym business where, hey, mom or dad would want to get in shape, live a healthier life. Mm-hmm. But then the spouse, the 3 kids are eating like junk. They would do it for 3 weeks, but then they'd fall back because they had to cook 2 meals, all those things. So imagine just being a connected, unstoppable family where everybody's up on their toes, everybody's on the same path. And that's been such an amazing journey for me as a father, is giving my 2 sons the gift of personal development. I've meditated for 3 straight years before school with each of them. I just talked to my youngest son yesterday. He's using a guided meditation app now at 12 years old, and he's meditating every day. I said, you're going to have 30 years on me from a practicing perspective. I said, it's going to be amazing. So giving them the strategies, those tools to start that personal development journey, hit that mindset gym, speak to language, it's the greatest gift you can give your children. And if we want to change where society's headed, we need to start there, right? Of how do we equip them to succeed and fight each day, love themselves, love everybody else, repeat all those critical components. And I'm honored, I'm grateful that I get that opportunity to provide those seeds and plant those seeds, because I didn't get them when I was growing up. I don't know about you. I didn't get them. I was in my 40s when I started this personal development journey. And now it's the greatest gift I get to live every single day about, is getting a little bit better and sharing what I learn and teach. And now I can equip my younger sons with that. I always tell them, you are going to blow me away, and I can't wait to watch it. So that's really, when you're connected as a family, it's a powerful force. And I feel like, if the family's the beach, the ocean has just been eroding the beach of a family structure over and over again. And it's such a missing piece. Absolutely, man. Well stated. Get everyone on board, get everyone aligned with the mission. I think if anything, I struggle with taking things too far in the home front. And I've learned to back off on that. For example, I took just this past weekend, I was on a road trip, and just my daughter and I, and we stopped at Starbucks, and I said, get whatever you want, knowing that she was going to get a Frappuccino, which just drives me. I was like, oh my God, it's nothing but pure sugar. But I've started backing off a bit and saying, look, if she nails these other things, then by golly, if she wants to get this stupid drink, knock yourself out. Pick your battles, right? I heard a very famous influencer, Peter Attia. He's like the forefront of longevity. And he says, his wife tells him, unless you're going to feed the children, there will be wheat thins in the cupboard. And he can't stand having wheat thins in his house because he wants to eat them all the time. And he knows they're just processed junk food. But he also realizes there's a lot of different dynamics in the house, and, there's a time to concede, and you don't want to be the father who burns your kids out on what your passion is. And for example, if you went to your children and was like, I can't believe you missed a day of meditation. What is wrong with you? Do you not want to achieve things? There is only so much, many times you can do that before they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I never have to talk about this stuff again. And there's no expectations or accountability on it again. Yes. Right? And I would say when I was in my 20s, that's how everybody thought I was going to turn out, right? Because I was a hard driver. I was extremely competitive. I don't know if you remember Todd Marinovich. He was a quarterback for USC, but his dad had him structured every day, and he ended up flaming out when he got to the pros and drugs and alcohol. But I showed by doing and leading by example. And I feel like that has been a critical component, right? My sons have seen me work out ever since when they were younger. So now at 12 and soon to be 14, I don't ask them to hit the gym. They go and do it themselves, right? When we started meditating, I didn't say, do you want to meditate? Because at that age, they would probably say, what the heck is that? I said, can we just breathe together? And then I guide them through it. So nonchalantly doing it in a little less, hey, this is what you need to do, and asking them a question rather than demanding it, I would say definitely has been a successful strategy that's worked for me as a father. That's a very subtle form of leadership, Jeff. I have a lot to learn from you, buddy, on that front. I'm way too much, and I realize that thinking I can force you to be a better person, and I get humbled whenever I do that. It's not being effective. When you talk about arming our children, this is something I think about a lot, Jeff, which is arming our children for success, which is a big part of our responsibility as a father, is to teach you the skills so that when I'm not in the picture or when you're on your own, you can survive and you can feed your children. One thing that I caught that you were saying about, encouraging them to surpass us, okay? I was raised in a very different type of household. It sounds kind of similar to yours, but I noticed when I hit 40
that most of the things I had limits on my success were because subconsciously I did not want to surpass my father. I looked at what he accomplished in his career and as a father, and there was some part of me that was like, this is where you get to, and this is where you stop. And I looked at that and said, this is where you're supposed to get to, and this is where you're supposed to stop. I'm very careful with my words now with my children, because I tell them, I want you to pursue your path. I want you to go beyond anything that I have imposed on you. Have your own limits and or your own expectations. Don't just look at mine. And realizing that most of my, especially in a self-development thing, talk about consistency being the multiplier over time. A lot of these things are my belief system saying, you've achieved enough. This is too much. Don't be careful. Be careful
Right.
going for more. How do you encourage people to take a step out of where they are now to kind of see what their own potential is or how they're holding themselves back?
I love to challenge them to ask questions. And is that factual? Is it true? Or is it just something you were led to believe? And questions can be so powerful. I love to ask myself the question, right? When I have a thought, is that factual, or is it just something I heard and I adopted and made it become a belief? So asking yourself questions can be a very, very powerful practice to get into, especially if, and I'm tuned into language just like you are, if I hear absolutes come out of somebody's mouth, right? I never
and
always, hold on a second.
Can't.
And, this has been something my wife and I have worked together to get better as a couple in our relationship, because when you say that to some, oh, I always do this, or you never, those are words that just kind of stoke the fire and throw gasoline on the fire. So, hearing those words and then ask, is that actually true? Oh, no, it isn't. Okay, then you start to open up this sliver of possibility, as well as I love to bring up the 4-minute mile of how things were. Things were out there, and we were on vacation in the Outer Banks a couple, right?
Roger
and
Bannister,
somebody said the date of when it happened, and I said Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, and my whole extended family was like, "How the heck do you know that?" And I said, because it is such a brilliant example of science saying that the human heart would explode if somebody ran less than a 4-minute mile. He did it. Then once he did it, 3 weeks later, 2 more people did it. And next thing you know, everybody, a lot more people can do it. Now high school kids are breaking the 4-minute mile, right?
High school,
so,
yeah. And I don't know that it's a true story, but there's a story where Christopher Columbus is after he gets back to his homeland, he's being criticized for people saying anyone would have done this in a matter of time. You just happen to be the first person. And again, I don't know that this story is true, but they're in a room with his 4 big critics, and he says, make the egg stand upright. And they spin and try to hold it and try to get the egg to balance. And he just smashes the egg flat because it's technically balanced or whatever. And he says, once you know how to do it, it's easy to know how to do it, right? And that first time, creating that potential of what can be done. And I love that Roger Bannister example, by the way. Very, very profound. So last thing I'll ask you, Jeff, because I know I'm eating up your time here, is you recently went on vacation, and I just got back from vacation too, and it's a time where you talk about reflect and adjust, right? What is it that was your biggest takeaway when you came home that you go, by stepping out of my circle, by stepping out of my day-to-day routine, I was able to kind of see this from a third person or a high level, and I see some adjustments that I need to bring back. What is an epiphany or an adjustment you had while you were on vacation that when you came back, you said you wanted to change about yourself?
I'd share the example we talked about a little bit before, and it's just being so present in the moment that you soak it up. And the example was, I was sitting on the beach next to my wife. My nephews, my sons were out in the water throwing the football around with my brother and brother-in-law, and I was soaking up the moment, and it brought me to tears. And my wife said, what's going on? And I said, my mother would have given anything to be here watching her grandchildren playing in the ocean. And I was just struck by it. And as I reflected, I said, I need to take pauses in my life and soak in moments to the point where it makes a imprint on my soul, and I'm brought to tears by it, because those are the things that we remember throughout our life, is those memories, those moments. I'll always remember that moment. And so many times we're going, next thing. No, stop, reflect, take in a moment, because it's so precious, and it's a gift that you get when you experience it. So that would definitely, Daniel, be something that I learned through the experience of vacation.
So let me paraphrase it. It's giving, the gift was always there, right, Jeff? But now you're learning this moment is a gift if I accept it as a gift and I just enjoy it as a gift, which is everyone's here. And if you're anything like I was in my 30s, it was more like, okay, we're going to be here for an hour, and then I got to start working on dinner, and then I got to start, and I would just get on to the next thing and the next thing, as opposed to just absorbing, right? Just being there and saying, let me just take all this in without any thought. And this is where I think meditation gives you an edge, Jeff, is without thoughts of the future or the past, can I just be here in this moment and absorb it? And what is it that makes that moment so special? It's because we know it won't last. It is the fact that you don't get to, especially in our age, Jeff. I mean, either one of us at this point in our life can suddenly die. Things can happen. So I turned 45 yesterday. You're 47, correct. Is it? Yep. I think. And you start looking at things going, I shouldn't count that I'm going to have this every year, or that all these people are going to be here next year. And there are only so many more times I get to do this. I need to be right here, right now.
Yep.
That's the part that's really hard to tell our kids, right? Is like, you don't realize how precious your time is when they're wasting a day doing X, Y, Z, and you're going, you have an abundance of time right now, but you don't realize how much this time matters.
And it's amazing you brought up that, hey, any moment it could be our last day, right? Because I actually had a guy I played baseball with growing up, 47 years young, passed away when I was on vacation. So now you're making me think back. Could that have been another trigger to sit there in that moment? Was it a day after that I saw that? I'll have to really reflect and think about the timeline. But yes, I mean, losing my mom to cancer, understanding life is so fragile, and every single day is a gift. It's a powerful place, and it's a great place to operate from. And I wish and hope more people would operate from that place.
You've taken something that is a very negative thing, which is cancer, and it sounds like you've transformed it into a life-altering experience that continues to feed you abundance, and you share that gift with others. This is part of why I do the podcast. I had a lot of health struggles in my younger years, and now I don't want to see other people, certainly not my kids, go through the same things. Jeff, thank you for sharing your message. Where can people learn more about you?
Absolutely. They can go out to themorningfire.com. That's my website. Grab a bunch of stuff. They can go out to Amazon if they want to grab the book, Rise, Fight, Love, Repeat, Ignite Your Morning Fire, as well as I've got a podcast out there, Your Hidden Edge. Go ahead, check it out on all major podcast providers.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I wish you much success, man, and I hope your message continues to grow.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it.